Hello, guys and gals, me Mudahar, and I'm getting the old blackmail again. Now, I better actually make sure to blur this one out because I really don't want my camera to pick up an actual address over here, ladies and gentlemen. Now, about a year and a half ago, I made a video where I said I'm being blackmailed, and actually 6 years ago, I made a video where I also was being blackmailed. Turns out I'm like the biggest sextortion victim at this point because ultimately it seems like a bunch of hackers seem to be hacking all of my computers and grabbing images of me playing with myself. Okay, like this is insanity. So obviously you might be like, all right, Muda, you got two options. You can either pay the blackmail, you can either not pay the blackmail, but I choose option 3, which is generally just make content with it and kind of educate people on a pretty serious situation that I've kind of been joking about for a few years at this point. So again, ladies and gentlemen, I want to show you an example of somebody right over here. This is from a malware website. And again, it starts off, this is the reason I'm showing you the example first is because a lot of this information is information that is publicly available. It's information that is publicly released. But for instance, they showcase that the actual email looks like this. I know visiting this address would be a more effective way to contact you if you don't take action, which is exactly what they put into my email, okay? My little actual post here says, I know that calling my actual number, which by the way is not my actual number. That is, no wait, actually that is my number. I get it really confused because my mom's and my number are like the same. I was actually about to freak out for a minute. I was like, wait a minute, how do they have my mother's number? Actually, no, that is my number. So, or visiting the address that I lived at. So this is actually where it's kind of freaky because they've got an address. And again, it would be freaky if I didn't myself accidentally leak an address by mistake. For anybody that doesn't know, I live streamed pretty heavily around the release date of Red Dead Redemption 2. And one of the biggest mistakes that I ever did was I streamed eBay. I went to the checkout page and I accidentally, for a second, showcased my address. Now at the time, I probably had like 500 viewers, 600 live viewers, and everyone was really cool about it, but unfortunately one guy just kept sharing the address around and it basically became public knowledge. Would be an effective way to have a word with you in case you don't act. Don't you try to hide from this. You have no idea what I'm capable of in Brampton, which is a city I used to live in. Again, a long time ago, around the release date of Red Dead Redemption 2. Now, of course, if this email sounds familiar, it is very word for word exactly what I got a year ago. So the actual sextortion hasn't really gotten much better since then. But again, to go back to the example, I suggest you read this message carefully. Take a minute to relax, breathe, and really dig into it. We're talking about something serious here, and I ain't playing games. You don't know me, but I know you, and you must be thinking how, correct? Well, you've been a bit careless lately, clicking through those adult videos and venturing into the darker corners of cyberspace. I actually placed a spyware called Pegasus. Now, Pegasus is a real spyware that is used to infect, journalists and high-profile individuals. This fucking scumbag doesn't have access to Pegasus. They're only putting shit in, so somebody Googles on the internet and thinks, oh God, I actually did really get hacked. In reality, no. Now, my version of the email just conveniently goes in and says, they placed a malware on a porn website. So I guess at this point, they hacked any of the websites that I guess I go to, and you visited it to watch, know what I mean? And while you were busy enjoying those videos, your device began functioning as an RDP, which allowed me total control over your device. I can peep at everything on your display, flick on your cam and mic, and you wouldn't even notice. Oh, and I've got access to all your emails, contacts, and social media accounts too. If you really wanted to fucking damage me, why send stuff to my family? You can just post an image of me fucking dark side filling myself on the actual YouTube channel that I run. Jesus Christ. What the fuck? So again, obviously they use terms like RDP in my case, which I've shown you what I've shown you what remote access Trojans and things like this do on my channel. But I guess the idea is they wanted to at least say that, I was watching videos. They recorded my camera, which this camera is connected through an Elgato capture device onto my PC. Again, none of it's fucking real because usually the only response I have to this is, do you have a sample? Do you at least have an image of me? The blackmail would be a lot more effective if you could show me a sample, just a frame of me pleasuring myself, okay? Which I'm sure they probably would try to look through my YouTube channel, or at least use AI at this point to fakely generate one and try to scare me that way. Now, for me, I never really get scared by these sextortion scams because I never jerk off in front of my computer. I mean, again, it's like pornography on my computer just seems fucking barbaric to sit in front of your like computer and just goon in front of it. I mean, that's what God made foldable phones and large screen phones for anyways. So, okay, this guy says, I see you are getting anxious. I don't know how you see me getting anxious. It's funny, they wrote the letter in future tense. But let's get real. As a family man, I want to wipe the slate clean and let you move on with your regular life and forget you ever existed. Okay? I will give you two alternatives. Option one is to turn a deaf ear to this email. Okay, that's fine. I'm making content out of it. Your video will get sent to all your contacts. The video is straight fire, and I can't even fathom the embarrassment you'll endure while your colleagues, friends, and fam watch it. It's a pretty hip criminal, if you will, too. The other choice is to pay me and be confidential about it. We'll call this my keep the secret fee. Let's discuss what happens when you choose this option. Your dirty secret will remain private. I'll wipe everything clean once you come through with the payment. You'll make the payment via Bitcoin only. And again, they provide a Bitcoin wallet, which obviously the Bitcoin wallet does not have any money put into it because thank God these scams don't function. And of course, the scary thing about it is, you know, now they've got the camera pointing directly to the house, okay? So directly at the front door. Yeah, it's crazy. It's like the online tips about covering your camera aren't as useless as they seem. Which is funny to me because I always disconnect my camera completely physically, kill all the power to it. So again, none of this really matters. Now, of course, this is the same example of an email I've received. Now, if you go to, again, CSUM, right, they've provided an example here which showcases the same issue. So a user receives a PDF file on their email, which you should never open a PDF file you don't trust, period. The only reason I tend to do this stuff is because, you know, I'm always running these things in virtual machines and containers, so I know what I'm fucking getting into, okay? But again, these emails are sent so innocuously. And this wasn't even the worst scam that I received. One scam that I actually almost fell for probably about 6-7 months ago was like a tax scam in Canada where like it was a very convincing email written pretending to be the Canadian Revenue Agency. And even I almost fell for that unless, you know, like the moment I started looking into the domains and all the little tiny cracks. But the scams are genuinely getting better. So the moment I look into this guy's email service, you can see the exact same email dropped right here. The exact number for this user, name, address, so on and so forth. Even to the point where they even have the exact same spelling mistakes and photos of maps, or photos of the person's house through Google Maps. Now again, I don't really get scared by this shit because ultimately I know I'm just dealing with a dipshit scammer, okay? And I'm sorry to say, brother, all right? I was born with the racial class of Indian. If it's somebody that can defuse a dipshit scammer, it's another goddamn idiot. You're playing for the, you're trying to fight me on the same class buff that we received. It ain't fucking happening. Now, of course, even for other people, there are emails like this. I have to share bad news with you. Approximately a few months ago, I have gained access to your devices, which you use for internet browsing. After that, I've started tracking your internet activities. Oh, really, hacker man? Some time ago, I hacked you and got access to your email accounts. So wait, you got access to my devices, and then you got access to my, what the fuck? So the password they provide is blank. 1 week later, I already installed Trojan virus to operating systems of all the devices that you use to access your emails. You know, I can just smell the fucking chat GPT that was used to write this fucking email. But yeah, obviously the big thing about it is we discovered you're a fan of adult websites. Now look, ultimately look, if you're somebody that, you know, your computer is your goon mobile, then I can imagine this being a scary email because people aren't really careful with the kind of, you know, internet practices that they have. You know, sometimes you just ran some fucking weird piece of software. You know, you might have fucking sailed the high seas, downloaded a game, and saw a command prompt open for half a second. You might have thought it meant nothing, and then like 3 months later, you get an email like this, and you're like, oh shit, dude. My 100% fucking discount on a game got me pretty screwed in the end. Even in that situation, ladies and gentlemen, these kind of emails, all it takes is to just write a sentence from them out into Google, and you can find examples of this sitting around on places like Reddit. People are sharing these emails around like no tomorrow. Now, how the fuck do they get your information, Muda? How the hell do they make it so personable? Obviously, they've gotten your information through a prior data breach. For instance, I know for a fact when it comes to my information on the internet, I have been doing the dark web videos for so long at this point, they become, a big part of my channel, obviously. They became a big part of the content that I've made. And I've done hundreds of these videos and I've had hours of footage. At some point on the dark web videos, what I didn't show on camera for obvious reasons was my docs that existed on the dark web. And it was pretty comprehensive. There was to a point where for at least, I would say a couple months, there was an onion link that just contained my personal information. It contained my address, contained my phone number, contained my fucking internet service provider, contained everything that you could imagine. And, obviously the only thing you can do in a situation like that is kind of, grit your teeth and not raise attention to it, which is exactly what I did. The onion link went down, but my docs still started getting shared around. It's to a point where obviously that docs exists, and unfortunately there's nothing you can do to get rid of that on the internet. Now, as far as people getting sextorted, unfortunately, when talking about the dark web, and this is where I wanted to kind of look at this video with a much more serious, informative vibe, because again, it's me trying to teach you how these people are trying to scam you, right? They are using information that is publicly available, publicly doxed, and in some cases, unfortunately for women out there, on the dark web, there are places where they've got their names, they've got price tags up to like $5 to $3 to gain access to compromising images. Again, you can see that dox. They're selling docs on the dark web, so stolen identity, humiliating photos, blackmail, stupid chicks, and a few guys. All profile applies only to adults. If you're one of the girls and you want your profiles to be removed from the site, or you are a boyfriend of one of the girls and want to help her disappear from the network, please contact us using this form. So again, they've put a lot of these, people on the internet, and they're charging $1,000 in BTC to get off, to get their information removed. And even if, it comes out that you're like a woman that wants your information removed as well, in some cases, because of AI and generative solutions, a lot of these places just start making AI porn of you and selling it around on the internet or sharing it, which is a serious problem when it comes to, revenge porn laws. And also, there's parts of the world where they're kind of jumping into the cusp and making that stuff illegal. Unfortunately, this is the internet. It's sometimes on the dark web, there's a lot of good things that can happen, and then there's a lot of bad things that can happen. And this is one of the worst things that can happen to people, is having their personal information shared without their consent, and sometimes even personal information made about them and shared, obviously without their consent. It's fucking scary shit. Now, ultimately, to a fucking blackmailer that's targeting me, I just got 2 fingers up in the air. All right, if you want to leak images of me, I guess, playing with myself, if you got them, go ahead and do it, okay? Simple as that. I have a very severe doubt that they exist. But honestly, we live in the world of AI where even if you did release a video or an image, at this point, I don't even know if it would be real or not, okay? Because shit has just gotten that good, and that's a goddamn sad thing to say. Now, obviously, look, it's gotten even worse in this situation, too, because, the new age of sextortion that has started taking place probably a month ago that I was looking into was a situation where children are being targeted. Children who are, children who are minors, okay, like actual minors. So in one case, a Michigan group of parents had a teenager who unfortunately took their own life when they were targeted by an online sextortion scam. And of course, a prison sentence was then handed out, more than 17 years, to 2 Nigerian individuals who blackmailed them. So in a lot of cases, these scams happen because some fucking douchebag in India, some douchebag in like Nigeria, some douchebag in the middle of fucking nowhere Eastern Europe, whatever the fuck, maybe even in the United States, obviously too, even though prosecution is significantly easier. The only reason I'm mentioning foreign nations is because, when you add that country barrier, that international barrier, the whole act of arresting people and enforcing crimes becomes so much more difficult. But obviously, the story here was very alarming. An individual who was 17 had sent nude photographs of themselves to somebody that they were thinking was a girl who had befriended them on social media. The recipients instead were Samuel and Samson Ogoshi, who were operating a hacked Instagram account and demanded $1,000 from the teenager, which, what teenager's got a fucking grand sitting around, and threatening to send the images to his friends and family. So this is where it obviously flips the table. Unfortunately, in this kid's case, they did get images of a minor who sent images of them nude to somebody who he thought was a girl, right? And obviously when you're 17, the hormones are raging. You're going to be doing things that you're probably regretting. And, this kid, honestly, I don't know the situation, but obviously the best thing that you can do is come clean to your family, especially your parents, okay? I'm just going to say, I'm not as pissed off as you think your parents would ever get. It's always a million times better you come to them, be honest, because honestly, they can help you navigate this. A 17-year-old cannot navigate being legitimately blackmailed, and unfortunately, they didn't. They ended up taking their own life. And this is, of course, an evolution of the scam that I was looking at. The scam that happens to me, the blackmail that is happening to me, is very inconsequential. It's some dipshit using commonly available AI tools to write a shitty email and send me stuff using publicly available resources that obviously I can just sit and laugh at. But for a lot of these children who are being sextorted, there are even further examples of this kind of shit too, for instance, where, again, one of the examples over here is, what's up? If you were more vigilant while playing with yourself, I wouldn't worry. I don't think that playing with yourself is very bad, but when all colleagues, relatives, and friends get video record of it, it is obviously for you. I adjusted virus on a porn website which you have visited. When the victim presses on a play button, device begins recording the screen and all cameras on your device. My program makes a dedicated desktop supplied with keylogger functions from your device so I could get all contacts from your email, messengers, and other social networks. So yeah, it's just people using the same dipshit scams. And there's so many different examples of these, but ultimately they follow the same playbook, right? Basically preying on the fears of individuals who think they're legitimately getting blackmailed. Now, obviously, if you get an email like this, just remember in most cases, never to respond to it. And honestly, take a bit of a laugh at it because no, you're not being blackmailed. But let's say you're somebody who is a child right now or even a young adult, and somebody on Instagram or a social media platform starts getting in touch with you and messaging you. Never send compromising images of yourself. Even honestly with a significant other that you know is a valid person, just don't do it, okay? Because who knows who hacks that, fucking group chat or who hacks that chat down the road. And then they've got a whole treasure trove of dirty pictures of you and your partner that they can share around on the internet. It is a fucked world we live in, okay? But yeah, honestly, I wanted to make a video about my blackmail because, anytime I get blackmail like this, I think it's a perfect time for me to sit down, have a laugh at it, and educate you guys about some real spooky horrors in the world, and honestly, how they happen and how you can just avoid them. So ladies and gentlemen, this is me, Mutahar. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike if you dislike it. I am out.